Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast this week. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got all kinds of things coming up. I think we're going to talk a little bit about our trip to Orlando to
our very last minute decision choice. Trip to Orlando,
which I'm 100% glad that we did.
Yes, so very much so.
We're going to get further into that, but before we do, I'm Chris
and I'm Alex,
and this is the Unwinding Podcast.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Unwinding Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all the things that help us unwind in life. But I will say, I feel like this topic eventually is going to, it aligns with unwinding, but it wasn't a very unwinding weekend.
Yeah,
you
feel pretty wound right now?
Very windy.
Yeah, no, I feel that too. I'm trying to let my tiredness flow into like silliness.
Yeah.
Some fun energy instead of just
slap happy.
Yeah, slap happy instead of just fall over tired or whatever. But
yes.
Yeah, this weekend was a blur. 20 hours in the car, which was insane. It was going to be a little bit less.
I think it was more than that.
You think so? With the stop
driving
in
back in Chattanooga, I think because we left at like 9 their time.
Yeah.
And we didn't get back till almost 8 our time.
That's crazy. Yeah, a couple of audiobook recommendations coming up for that because that's the only way that you can spend 20 hours in a car in a weekend and not go insane. Wow. It
was wild. We basically decided a week ago, basically like last Monday, that we would try to, our house here in Tennessee was ready to have photos taken and be put on the market. And we were like, well,
whenever it goes up on the market, if somebody puts in an offer on it, then we sell it. We're going to be homeless. We got to figure out where we're going to go, where we're going to go live. You know, like we know that we're going to Orlando, but that's like a big area, you know? So
yeah. And we have never really, we have stayed off Disney property twice, I think. I've stayed off more than twice, but together, and we've really only driven around the area like once or twice.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since we've done that, a couple years. And
because usually whenever we go for vacation, like I feel like we preach, if you can stay in the bubble, stay in the bubble. Like it's so 100%. Great. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. But if you have to live down there, it's
you need to
know what's around,
correct.
how you get in and out of that place.
Yeah.
If you're coming from which direction, what's the best traffic, all that kind of stuff that you would want to know if you were going to go.
Exactly. And just like the area, we didn't know. We didn't know much outside of the Disney bubble, really. And so I know kind of the little pockets, but we had never really hung out in those areas. So we were like, okay, we got to pay for either an Airbnb or a hotel and the gas to get down there and all that. But like, if you're going to buy a house in there, it's kind of worth it to do it. So we were like, all right. We texted our realtor and
we had some suggestions from our realtor on things to do while we were there. Like she was very supportive of like, this is a great decision. Like, I'm glad that you're doing this. Here are some things that you need to check out while you're down there. So, that was pretty cool. So the timeline was we got photos taken on like Monday or Tuesday. So like I don't know if you've ever been through this process before, but basically once you get like everything in the house ready, someone comes and takes photos that usually, we were gone for only like an hour. And
they were hour
if 15. So I feel like our philosophy in all of this was find people who are smart and know what they're talking about in that area, let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And
step back.
And step back out of the way. And so like within an hour, the real estate photographer came in, took wonderful pictures of the house, and then like they even did like it was kind of like a wedding video.
Yeah,
like,
it was
you ever
like
see one of those like
it was
kind
like,
of dramatic like vibey wedding videos that people do.
Yep.
Except it was our house and there was no one in it, so
it was really good.
Yeah, it was super good. We had tons of positive reaction off of that. That was Tuesday that they came and took the photos.
Yeah.
By Thursday it was ready. Like it was on the website, ready to be listed. We were quote unquote coming soon. Friday we went on the market, and then we also got up at 4 a.m. Central on Friday, and drove down to Orlando. Got there it was 4 or 4:30, something like that.
It was 4:00. We kind of like rolled into Windermere.
Yeah. So we actually, was it 4:30?
Yeah, 4:30 was our first showing down there. Yeah.
So it was
a long day.
Yeah, 10 and a half hours in the car down
because
there.
we did have the dogs with us because since it was such a last minute trip decision, we didn't really have anybody to watch them, and I didn't want to drive them up to my parents' house, which is what we normally do, because that would have added on another 8 hours to the trip on one end and an 8 hour on the other end, and I just would not have been able to do that. So we had to take them with us, and so we stopped a little bit more than we probably would have. But really, we only stopped 3 times to get gas, let the dogs out, go to the bathroom for ourselves, and get some snacks and things like that. And we just hit traffic right outside of Orlando because it was Friday afternoon. And so it took us a little bit to get kind of into the Windermere area, which is where we were meeting for our first showing. So we literally went from our house to a showing Friday night. Tennessee to a showing.
To the showing directly. And then we saw 3 houses the first night.
And we hated them all.
Yeah, I was really stressed whenever we got back there. I was like, I was a little bit worried that I didn't want to live there. Honestly, I was
we didn't like it. We didn't really like, and I think a lot of it was like we didn't like the we didn't love the neighborhoods that those neighborhoods that we had looked in. We were overwhelmed by the area, and it just didn't vibe with us. None of it really vibed with us. One of the neighborhoods was really pretty in terms of like the landscaping, and the trees were really mature and pretty. There's a lot of like Spanish moss and like things like that. It was really pretty, but like the people walking around the neighborhood were just like, I don't know. It just didn't really feel like we would have vibed in that neighborhood. It was a little bit of an older.
There was no one younger than 60 that I saw.
Yeah, it was definitely older, and so so we were like, this may not be the vibes. And then one of the houses, it was just like the carpet was gross. There was like the pictures. When I went back and I was like, why did we go look at this? Like, I'm really surprised we even looked at this. The pictures were nice.
Fantastic.
And they had it was somewhat staged. There was nothing in this home at all.
Yeah.
There was it was just old. It was kind of gross. And so we were just
I looked up it a couple times, and I was like, there should be a light fixture in here. Where is the light fixture? And then we walked out into the garage, and the light fixtures were
there was 4 chandeliers sitting on a table.
In the garage. And then I was like, I looked at how ugly they were, and I was like, well, no wonder they took them down.
But also why are they not plugged in? It was odd. So we saw 3 that night and did not like any of them. And we were just so exhausted from literally leaving our house at 4 a.m. and just the drive in the car is exhausting. And I think emotionally we were just really defeated at first. We were like, ugh. And we're literally driving around the area at 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So that added to it too, because there was a lot of traffic and people and kids were getting out of school, and it was stress. It was just stressful. And we went back after those 3 showings to the Airbnb, which was 35-ish minutes, 45 minutes away from where we had seen those houses out in Clermont, Florida. And I got a splitting migraine.
Oh yeah, I thought I was dying. I was going to have to take you to the emergency room.
I thought you were going to have to too. I have never had a migraine so bad. I couldn't open my eyes. They were hurting. I think I was just so stressed, dehydrated. I hadn't eaten anything. It was awful.
Yeah, at that point I was ready to just open the passenger door, roll you out, and drive off.
Gee, thanks. Anyway, so we made it back to our Airbnb, which was in Clermont, which I think I will try to link the listing for that Airbnb because it was
awesome.
Adorable.
It was a great little small
Yeah.
just like, it was very clean, like
very clean,
simple, near enough stuff there in Clermont. Like I would say there's not enough space to have more than just like two people. Like the dogs were pretty much in their kennel the whole time. It was like a single room Airbnb with just like a little kitchenette and a really small bathroom on it, but clean. The bed was really nice.
Yeah, it was like brand new. They've not. I think it was completely renovated and very, very cute. And right next to it was actually, they owned the house next to it, and it was an Airbnb as well. So if you needed a little bit of a bigger space, you could. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you're like going down there for like Disney World or Universal.
Yeah, it's
because
a little far.
You're like still like 40 to 45 minutes away. Which we're really glad we didn't buy in Clermont, because we thought about it, because you get a little bit more house for your price there. But I'm glad we didn't, because I think it would have been a little bit of a far drive for what we wanted.
Yeah, it definitely would have been a far drive. Gosh, I'm losing track of the nights. So there was that first night.
That basically wrapped that night up.
The second night that we were there, when we drove back.
Yeah, it took forever.
It was like 35,
we were like,
minutes.
This is ridiculous. So yeah, that was basically day one. Day two, we didn't have showings until the afternoon. So our realtor, Emily, she told us to check out downtown Winter Gardens, farmers market. And so we went up there to see that area, and it is adorable.
Yeah, it changed my
oh my
before
goodness.
we saw any of the houses that day, I was like, well, let's buy a house here, because it is just like, lifestyle wise, it is there. Like it hits all the
really
things
cute
for me. Like the farmers market, which we can talk a little bit more about, was awesome. They have I love to ride bikes, and they have like a 40-mile long trail that goes straight through downtown Winter Garden and goes kind of up through the neighborhoods. Actually, one of the houses that we drove by that was having an open house a little bit later on in the day, the trail
went through that neighborhood.
Went through the neighborhood. Yeah. Right? So it was like,
I almost ran over some people, because I was like, wait, do I have to, what the heck? Do I have to stop here?
Yeah,
I do have to stop here, because they just like go.
Yep. And it goes right through the little gate to the neighborhood, and I guess they ride through there, but it's like, I guess it followed an old railroad track. I looked it up later, and so they kind of repurposed a railroad line that went through Winter Garden, which makes a lot of sense, because the downtown's very quaint and looks like it could have had a station or something. Cute. So yeah, that was cool.
We loved that area. We drove around like some different neighborhoods really nearby there, because there was a house like a month or so ago that was on the market that we were really interested in, and it was in one of these neighborhoods. So we were like, let's go look at this neighborhood, see if there's anything else available. And the neighborhood, gorgeous, 10 out of 10. Again, though, I think it's a little bit of an older community, the one that we were looking at.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure it would have been exactly what we were looking for. And this area of Winter Garden is a little bit further north of Disney World, and we were wanting to be a teeny bit closer. So we were like, okay, we love this neighborhood. So if the houses we're looking at later don't really work out, then maybe we move our look to being up here. But spoiler alert, we found a house.
Oh yeah. We'll get to that.
Get
to that bit. Tell me, I want to talk about the farmers market for a little bit, because we have a nice farmers market here in Murfreesboro.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
It's a really good one on the square.
It's like they took the diversity of like what is available. See, like the farmers market here in Murfreesboro has a variety of a lot of the same things, if that makes sense, right? So you have a ton of people that are coming in that have like farms and bring different seasonal stuff throughout the year. I think they had two quote unquote like, they were like vegetable bigger dealers or whatever tents, right? So you had two different options. If you were just the person that's like, I'm gonna go get my produce there for this week.
I want my maters and my watermelon.
Yeah, exactly. And so everything else walking around there was like everything from we got an acai bowl and a smoothie. There was live music. There were, kind of like the little trinkets and dog treats and beef jerky and things like that. But then they even had like there was a tent with spices.
Gosh, there was like It was almost like an actual, like a small festival.
Yeah.
Like a craft fair / festival / farmer's market that I think they do every weekend, at least. I don't know if it's every weekend of the year, because here, like, it's only during like the summery fall months, and then winter it stops. But like
all year long.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't know. So that'll be interesting to find out. We will definitely, there was also a little bookstore that I ended up getting a sticker and a book at, and that was just like locally owned bookstores,
book clubs, and had
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh,
they had a calendar of events for like different authors coming through, popular authors, and it was an independent bookstore, and so these authors would come by and do like signings and things like that, which is super cool.
It's so exciting. So exciting.
Yeah, so I could definitely see whenever we get down there, doing like putting our bikes on the back of the car, driving up there.
Oh yeah,
and riding a little bit, because it starts a little bit later, right? It's like an 8 a.m. start.
It was an 8 a.m.
start, but you get up there at
it's warm early in the morning there, so let's go, baby.
And start riding at like 6:30, 6:45, and go.
Already talking about this is getting me more excited, because I we'll get to it, but like I have been so just emotionally drained and mentally exhausted from this weekend, and like the weeks leading up to it, we have just been go, getting this house ready, and like constantly looking at houses on the market to see if anything comes up. And I just felt like we're never going to find a place because we didn't like anything, and it's just been a lot. And so I'm like, when you start talking about like an actual weekend of what it would look like, it gets really exciting.
Yeah, it really does.
So that was our morning. We kind of hung out there. We spent quite a bit of time, and then we were like, it was only like 10 a.m. So we were like, let's drive down to Horizon West, which is a part of Winter Garden, a newer part of Winter Garden that's further south, closer to Disney World. It kind of like Disney's here, and it kind of hugs the left side of the map there. So we were like, let's go down there, just kind of drive around. Honestly, like we knew the 3 addresses we were going to look at. So we were like, let's go specifically,
look at the neighborhoods.
But specifically really like drive the neighborhood and see what it feels like, where it's at, what the amenities feel like. Cause y'all,
where are you going to go get groceries? Like where are you going to go to eat, that kind of stuff.
Cause y'all, you cannot tell by the photos online anything. I feel like you just like it gives you an idea, but it's just not the same at all as being in person. So we did that, and then it was time to go back and let the dogs out, and we had a little snafu with the Airbnb at this time. So there was a number lock that we had a code to, and that deadbolted it. But then there was the door that had an actual just like regular turn lock that would have been opened with a key. I am a habitual locker.
You're a locker.
I lock everything constantly. My dad did that. He still does that. It's ingrained in me. It's not going to go away. I lock everything. Cars, houses, everything. Everything's always locked. So I just locked it because I was like, cool, great. You weren't supposed to lock the key lock because we didn't have a key. We just had a code. So the dogs have been in their kennels at the Airbnb for like 5 hours at this point, maybe longer. I don't remember. Not insane amount of time, but still. We had a few hours before our showings for the houses, and so we were going to go back and hang out with them. Then we couldn't get in the Airbnb. So
and to make it worse, Nella is inside
screaming,
just like someone is slowly putting a knife into her.
But like that's just how she acts. She gets so excited. She wants out of her kennel. She's very anxious about being alone. She doesn't like us leaving. And so she was like so loud, screaming, and I could just hear her, and it was breaking my heart, and I felt awful. And then we sat there, texted the Airbnb host. 30 minutes goes by, she's not answering. Chris was like, we're gonna have to do something.
I'm just so glad that the neighbors weren't out, because I get embarrassed really easily.
Well, yeah.
And we kind of looked like we were did not belong there.
Yeah. So Chris took his Costco card, which we're going to have to get you a new one, and popped the lock basically because we had to get in there, and we did. And I told the Airbnb host, and she was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. No big deal."
Which is great because
thank God.
You totally should not have to do that. And I was very careful when I was looking stuff up that I'm like not going to damage.
Yeah, because we did not want to damage
because
their
I don't
stuff.
want to deal with like people invest a lot of money in their life into those places. So I was very careful not to completely screw it up and have to replace all of it.
It was fine.
No, everything
was completely
was great.
fine. We popped it, and then every single time we left from then on, we were like, great, not going to do that.
Yep.
So hung out with the dogs for a little bit, and then it was time to go back out to Horizon West to see the 3 houses that we were more excited about.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I was still kind of excited, but I'm more the optimistic one.
Yeah, for sure.
About the first set of houses, but I think we enjoyed in that morning before we got back to the Airbnb. I think we were starting to get a little bit more excited about the area.
Yeah.
Because that, like, we not only did we drive around the area and kind of see, okay, like schools, groceries, we saw some places for like running or riding your bike, or, like some green space. Then we also stopped and got some food. They have like a really nice, I don't know, what would you call that
mall,
area?
kind of?
It's kind of, but it's like, I don't know, a bunch of like
there's like
shops
food and
things.
shops. It's kind of like an outdoor, but not outdoor. I don't know. You have to walk outside to get to each place. So it's kind of outdoorsy type of little shopping area.
But it was a nice touch.
There's a lot of food.
The first trip that we ever went down to Disney in Orlando, we with Jonathan and Krista, our friends,
the Pizza Press.
Yeah, we went to the Pizza Press and loved that place so much that I think on a 5-day trip we went there 2 nights.
Yeah, maybe even more. We went a lot.
Yeah, we did. It like became our thing or whatever. And then so we go down there and check out this neighborhood, and there's a pizza press there. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was good.
So we had that for lunch before we went back, and then we came back down. Went to which place did we go to first?
Our house.
What did we go to the we started nicknaming the houses.
Yeah, because it was really hard to keep track on when we were looking on One Home, which is basically the real estate site that our real estate company, kind of the back end, I guess,
that uses houses.
Yeah.
That are on
so we had an account there, and what we were looking at, it was just really hard to keep track, because I think when I looked back at the listings that we were sent and the one, like all of that, it was over like 50 listings in a span of like a month that we had looked at. And so we either immediately gave them a heart if we liked them, or a thumbs down if we didn't like them. All the heart ones, the favorited ones, kind of stayed in one batch. And so that's where we picked those 6 from. And this one was dubbed the Shrub House because the back side, it's not even technically a backyard, it's a side yard. The yard is shrubbed in with like 6-foot tall shrubs.
Yes.
Privacy shrubs. Yeah, great. And there's one missing shrub, so you can walk in and out to get to the back parking area, basically, and inside the house. So that was the biggest negative on this house, because we have the 2 dogs. We need something that is fenced in, or that they can go out and go potty, where we don't have to leash them every single time because they're a pain in the butt. So
you know what I'm noticing now? We named all of the houses for the one thing that we didn't like about them.
Oh, we did.
We totally did
the Shrub House.
Yeah, shrub. It was the.
And then the second house was Gray House.
The Gray House, and it was so gray.
And the third one, I feel like we didn't really like enough to name.
I would have named it the Schoolhouse.
That was the Gray House. That was by the school.
Oh, dang. Okay. I don't even. Oh, yeah.
It was the no yard house. Basically, it had no yard.
Yeah. It was like maybe just like a little bit over modern.
Yeah.
So anyway, whatever.
That was a very oddly decorated house. So essentially, we went straight to the Shrub House, and it was like beautiful online, but I'm very skeptical because, like I said, photos are deceiving. This place was pristine. Like, the people living there are so type A clean freaks, which love that. Not that I am necessarily that, but I strive to be that. And I really wanted a clean house. That was like one of my things.
Yeah. One of their requests when we were coming to check out the house is that we took our shoes off at the door.
I forgot they did that.
Yeah.
So
that we didn't track dirt through the house.
Yeah. It was beautiful. Immediately, I kind of broke a rule that I didn't really realize was a rule because it's our first time really doing that. I was like talking about my love for the house inside the house. And then later on I was like, what if they had cameras and they heard me gushing about this house?
Yeah, you've just,
and they're like,
all of our negotiation is just.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, dang it. So I don't know. I just got really excited because I knew that this was the top of our list. And I was like, it was beautiful in person. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
I think at one point you literally said we were walking.
I think I said, take my money.
You said, take my money right now.
Oh, I'm the worst.
No, you didn't know. You don't know any better. So
I didn't know any better. So it's fine. Our realtor was probably like, shut up. But yeah, so we looked at that house, went to the gray house, which was fine. When I say it was gray, the outside was gray. Mm-hmm. There was brick on the outside that was gray brick. And then you walked in and all the walls were gray. They had a wooden gray accent wall that was on the main part of the living room / dining room kitchen area that you saw immediately as you walked in the house. And then they had that same thing, an accent wall going up the stairs all the way up. And then they had the exact same kind of layout coloring backsplash in the kitchen and in the bath.
Yeah, in the shower upstairs.
The shower and behind the bathtub. There's a bathtub too that had it.
Oh my gosh,
so
I didn't even see that.
Literally gray everywhere. And so I was like, I'm moving down here to like be in the sunshine and happiness and like bright off-white colors are what makes me a little bit more excited. This wasn't going to do it. So I was like, ooh. And you walk out technically I think it's the back, but it's kind of like the front of the house.
Yeah, it was like off the living
room. And you
room.
Literally see an elementary school. And I was like, no, thank you.
I just pictured you out there in like your morning robe or whatever with your
all
coffee
these
or
children
whatever.
Walking to school.
And then the kids are just walking by and you're like throwing stuff. Get off my lawn.
No, I would not do that, but I would just be annoyed because the dogs would be bark, 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 and the kids would be like, touch the puppies. And then it'd be like, nibble the hands. And then we'd get sued and it would be horrible.
Well, that went downhill fast.
Yeah, it usually does. So essentially we saw those 3 homes. Immediately knew we liked the shrub house over the other 2. And after that, we went back to the Airbnb to see the dogs and to decompress after all of that. And then what did we do?
That's after all 3 of the houses.
Yeah. Where did we go that evening?
Oh, yeah, we went to Epcot. Sorry. So,
you were like, wait, I don't know. What did we do?
You've watched a little bit of Modern Family, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so there's a scene in Modern Family where she's like talking about how like, she's like, I want our kids to basically to not know who we really were as teenagers, but I want them to know who we think that we were as teenagers so that they can try to live up to it. But whenever they fail at the ideal version of us, they're just going to be better than who the real version of us was. And then the husband, like he turns around and says, yeah, and so that's why we're always honest and open with our kids. And she goes, honey, that is the opposite of what I just said. And he goes, I wasn't listening. And that was me.
That was a really long story to tell me that you weren't listening to me.
That was the nice way of putting it. At least it's funny. I don't know. You can cut it out if you don't want it.
Sorry.
You were talking and like my mind squirreled onto something.
It's
else,
fine. We're both really tired, so it's fine.
No,
we went to Epcot.
We did go to Epcot. It was longer than I thought to get down there, and we went through Celebration to come in. So, like, we went down a highway. It was 27, right?
I don't remember.
Florida's Turnpike?
Sure. Yeah, so we went to Epcot that night I kind of thought it would be, like, a little bit of a celebration kind of thing because we had at this point got under contract for our house here in Tennessee. Somebody had purchased it here, and we accepted all. I think at that point we had accepted, or we were going back and forth. I don't remember. I think we were signing a bunch of stuff electronically once we got in the Epcot parking lot for both homes, going through negotiations for the home we wanted in Florida and with the buyers here in Tennessee. And so kind of went back and forth there and ended up just going into Epcot. We made a big loop around the showcase to just eat and get a drink. We ran into our friends, Dan and Leslie and Ken Pozek and his wife, who he's the owner of the real estate company that we're using down there. So it's kind of funny to get to meet him and that they ended up being there. It was very like, we are Florida locals, aren't we? Here, all just catching
already
up.
Recognizing people here in the parks.
So that was fun. And yeah, we got out of there. It took us way too long to get back to Clermont. But traffic was fine. It just is it's a long drag. And we were glad at that point that we had not bought out there. Not that it's a bad place. If it's not like your main goal to be close to the parks, you're still close enough. Like it feels good. You can go there, once every couple weeks, and it's fine.
Our goal wasn't to try and get to the parks more than once a week to either like ride rides or do content. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
a great place to live.
Exactly. So yeah, and then the next morning it was just kind of getting our stuff picked up, and again like back and forth with realtors and all of that via email and text, and talked.
We didn't leave as early.
No, we didn't leave till 9-ish their time. Thinking that we'd still get back at a good time, but then traffic was horrible. It took us so long to get back. But yeah, that was pretty much the weekend. There was just a lot. It was emotionally exhausting, mentally exhausting, not really physically exhausting. So we just sat, but I guess it just kind of all of that kind of takes a toll physically on you too.
Yeah, no, you get out of there and you have zero energy. Completely sapped.
Hips hurt, back hurts, 30-year-old life. So that was our 72 hours in Central Florida to buy a home and find a home.
Yeah, before we leave that part of it, the 2 audiobooks that we listened to.
Oh yeah, good call.
The first one was I don't know if any of you guys remember, was it 8 Kids and Counting was the original TLC show?
No, 8 Kids and Counting is a completely different person.
The Duggars.
It was 19 kids or something. They have 19 kids.
She was. Yeah, okay, so the Duggars were the family. I remember watching them in high school with a friend, watching the show. And
19 Kids and Counting.
This one, this was Jill, who was one of the older kids. And it's kind of like her telling of the story of like growing up as a Duggar and getting married and like setting boundaries and things whenever like she wanted to move on kind of from the show. And like there's a whole bunch of drama around it, and it was kind of
really like religious trauma, honestly.
Yeah, it's a
lot of abuse, let's be honest. It was it was abuse. It was manipulation, and it was hard to listen to in parts, to be honest, because it just was. And I think it was called Counting the Cost by Jill Duggar. And
she read it in the audiobook. She read it and did a really great job.
Her voice is a little annoying, but it wasn't too bad.
I didn't think it was that bad.
I had it on like 1.5 speed, so because she talked way too slow, and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna speed you up." And then the second book I think you liked even more was Matthew Perry's memoir, From Friends,
which I now know that you can write a memoir and not be dead.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, he's not dead. But it was really good. It's about we got about a little over halfway through it, but it's about his addiction and mental health, struggling with alcoholism and all of that. So it was good. And he's really funny. So it was written really well.
It's insanely well written.
Yeah, it was good.
Just some of the descriptions and some, like, he's a funny guy, so he put a bunch of really funny jokes in there, and he kind of talks the way that he does, and so it's
a little self-deprecating and just kind of goofy. It was good.
Very sometimes the humor was just like right on the nose and out of nowhere.
So I've listened to 6 audiobooks this month.
Whoa.
Because of all the stuff that we've been doing around the house, I just put my AirPods in while like we're cleaning or doing stuff outside, mowing, in the car.
Honestly, I feel like I'm not so much of an audiobooks person, but my podcast consumption has definitely gone up this month,
for sure. So anyway, I real quick before we kind of wrap this episode up, we wanted to also just kind of talk about like kind of some, I guess like 5-6 tips a little bit if you are interested in moving. They kind of specifically target down to moving to the Central Florida, Orlando area, but they also could kind of hit if you're moving somewhere else as well. Like they're a little generic, but a couple of them kind of specifically lean towards the Central Florida area, which I would assume if you're listening to our podcast, if you are thinking about moving, it might be to that area. Who knows?
Yeah, sure.
So
come join us. It's a great,
yeah, exactly.
Great place.
So the first one is thinking about all this and planning way ahead, even if you don't necessarily not necessarily like putting your house on the market and waiting, not necessarily that, but like start talking about what you want out of this. Start thinking about saving money for this, which I wish we would have done a little bit sooner, in plenty of time. Like a year and a half is really about when we started talking about what it looks like. So get your plan together and really figure out what you want, and then details start to come. But from there, and then just start putting away some money. Even if it's just a little bit every month, you'll be really glad you did it.
Yeah.
As we're finding out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, our original plan too was to move in like next spring.
Yeah.
Too. And we just kind of, as it was going, I feel like we would have been playing the waiting game for a really long time and probably gotten very bored kind of waiting on next spring to get here, you know? Like I'm glad that
sitting through another winter as well.
Yeah. Whew. Yeah. Well, Yeah.
It'd have been hard.
Yep.
The second one is finding a good real estate company or realtor in both markets. If you're selling a home that you're currently living in and finding one in Florida. If you're in the Murfreesboro area, plug for Kelly Sharp, who is with Parks Realty. She was fantastic. She has been fantastic, will continue to be fantastic. And then the Posick Group, we have worked with Emily Berry, again, fantastic, continues to be fantastic. And the rest of their team also is fantastic. The Posick Group, I know a lot of people who have used them, and they are a great company down in the Central Florida area if you're looking for a real estate company.
Yeah, I feel like the important things there are like look for somebody who definitely can demonstrate some experience. Like they both know so much what they're talking about, and I feel like you get to that by the first thing, which is probably even more important, is find somebody that you feel like you can talk to and you feel comfortable. If you are asking stupid questions that maybe you say, hey, this is a stupid question, but this, I intentionally asked at the beginning some stupid questions just to see, does this person, are they willing to talk to me and not
be a teacher?
Yeah, and not basically treat me like a child or be dismissive because I'm asking a simple question. They're both great with their time and their responses and their thoroughness and diligence. Yeah. And when you get later on in the process, people that have that character trait are the people that will take more care of you. And honestly, in my opinion, it's worth paying more. It's worth giving up more to somebody who's going to be like that and walk you through the process that you can actually trust versus somebody who just does it a bunch and you're a number and that kind of thing. So 100%. I feel like we nailed all of the personnel choices on this move.
I agree. It's been fantastic so far. So I don't think it'll change. We kind of already hit on this, but spending 5 to 7 days in an area that you want to live in and driving around. When we started this process, I was like, let's go down and rent for 6 months. And then it's funny, we just get smaller and smaller. And then we said, okay, let's go rent an Airbnb while we still own our home here for a month and live like locals for a month and see how that feels. And then we were like, dadgum, Airbnbs are expensive. So we nixed that one. And then we said, okay, but we really do want to go down there. So we went to kind of a last minute weekend trip. If I could go back, I don't think I would do the full month, but I would do 5 to 7 days and make it a little bit of a longer trip and have a little bit more planned of what we would do, where we would go, spend a little bit more time in each area. So if you don't know the area that you're moving to, like us, we're moving 10 hours away from where we currently are. We didn't know the area. If you're like us, Disney World, you stay on property, you don't really venture out. You don't just buy in an area you think you're going to like because somebody you know likes it too. You guys have different values, different needs, different likes. Just because they like it doesn't mean that you are going to like it.
Yeah, I think that's all great stuff. I don't have anything that I can add to that one.
Okay, cool. The next two, so knowing and being comfortable in your price range and then not deviating from that. Because this process is really emotional.
Yeah.
And it can be really easy to be like, well, I love this house and I want it and I don't care another 5, another 10, another 20 grand. It's like, ooh, that starts
And you can
up.
also fall into kind of the pit that I feel like I was falling into on Friday night, which is everything that we can afford in this price range, I don't like.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, there is not a house.
We can just go up a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You don't want to move down here and make a commitment to a place that you don't actually like. Why not just push the bounds a little bit more?
Yeah. You're much more risky than I am. I was like, no. And aren't you glad? Because seeing our mortgage payment, I'm like, nope. No more, please. Thanks so much. Yeah. But we've also been really, really, like, we bought in 2016 when the market was like really
and
low
when the interest rate was like 2, I think our interest rate's like
3.5, I think.
Yeah,
it's
crazy,
literally
ridiculous.
double plus some now. So yeah. The last one is just like kind of leaning into your emotions and feeling all of your feels. And this, I had a feeling this would happen, but I didn't realize how much it would hit me last night when we got back to Tennessee and walked into our house knowing it was not really our house anymore. I sobbed.
Yeah, it was emotional coming back for sure. Because it was, we've cleaned a lot of the stuff out of here. And so there's still furniture and room for like it being staged or whatever. But a lot of like the personal things, like the personal photos and things they're gone. They were gone. All the dog stuff, like we had just kind of brought in and sat in the floor. And you're right. It did not feel like our house. It was very strange.
I just didn't know how. I knew it would be emotional when we like actually handed over the keys and like it's empty in here. But I didn't realize last night, just being under contract, how emotional it would be. And so because I am the way that I am, I was like I literally Googled last night, is it normal to be emotional about selling your house? And if so, what do I do about it? I'm not lying at all. So I started reading these blogs and everybody made me feel a lot better. There was a Reddit thread of like, it's totally normal. You've made memories there. You made it your own. You had like private things happen in there and it's totally normal and feel those feelings. And I was like, dang straight, feel those feelings.
It's like the one time that the internet has helped anyone emotionally, right? Most of the time it's just like hate comments and trolls, but
I was so tired, which I know made it worse. When I'm tired, my anxiety and emotions are
it's very easy
wild.
To start spiraling, yeah, for sure.
So we had sat in traffic in Chattanooga for like an hour and a half. So it was just so late and we were just so tired and it just emotionally draining because you're basically signing so much paperwork, knowing like the main overarching pieces, but like you're just kind of, again, why you should have people you trust and know are doing good work because you really are trusting them by signing all this
With how
paperwork.
fast all that stuff comes? Absolutely.
Because it comes so quick.
Yep.
I remember it being stressful and emotional when we bought our current home, and it was just buying for the first time. The buying and selling, like
getting it all
talking back and forth with 2 realtors, talking back and forth with a lender, talking back and forth with, it was just like, oh my gosh, my head was spinning. So it was just a lot. And
which we were super worried about lining up the dates so that we weren't homeless or that
for too long.
and we had to like find a place to rent for the short term or something like that. And then just everything just completely.
We literally close here in Tennessee on this home on a Friday, and we close on that following Monday in Florida.
Yeah, so we have the weekend to get down there, and on the Monday it'll start a mad dash to get it in there and get everything set up.
Yeah. It's just like we kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Is that the saying? That sounds...
Sure.
Whatever. We kept waiting for something to happen that would go wrong, and it just like we kept getting the right answers. We didn't even technically ask or set either of those closing dates.
No, that's
those are
how they
literally
came in
how
on the
they
offers.
came in.
Yep.
And we were like, "Oh, well, that's perfect."
Yep.
Okay, great.
And
thanks.
going into this whole process, we kind of had our idea of how we would like for it to go,
Yeah.
and without telling us, no, you need to do this. Kelly and Emily both kind of coached us directly on to into those dates. So that was
wild.
Yep.
It's wild. So yeah, if you're selling a home or you're going to be selling a home, don't be surprised or feel bad if you are emotional about it, because it's totally normal. Something, because I always like to have a plan and like be a little over the top when it comes to things sometimes.
You?
Yeah. I haven't sang this episode, I realized.
You did sing. You sang as Nella. You sang as Nella trapped in the Airbnb.
Oh, okay. That's my singing for this trip or for this podcast.
We can make it that way.
I kind of just briefly wanted to touch on our plans for kind of saying goodbye to this house in Tennessee, which I know kind of sounds dramatic, saying goodbye to it, but closing this chapter for us. And one thing we did, this was the first home that we bought together at 22 or 3.
Just as babies. Yes.
We were 22 or 23 when we bought this house. We're 30 now. So we've been living here about 6.5, 7 years, roughly. I think it almost 7 years.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was a big decision for us then. It's a big decision for us now. And a lot has happened, good and bad, in this house. And we're not leaving it with a, like, we hate this house, we're done with it. It's just time for something different. And that makes it a little bit harder. So to kind of close out this chapter and say goodbye to this house, when we bought it, we went to our favorite restaurant, basically. It's a Laotian place right up the road, and got General Tso's chicken, which is one of our favorites. And before we put any furniture in the house, we sat in the floor of the empty living room and just like ate and smiled and talked about how excited we were.
Yeah, got a vibe for the house.
And we're going to do that same thing in here to say goodbye to the house.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, and talk about the memories that we've had here, and just I'm trying to not to get too emotional about it now, but just be thankful for the years that we spent here and the time that we've been in this home. Yeah,
a lot of good memories. All Friendsgivings and things like that.
Yeah, we brought Nella home here. So this was her only home that she knows with us. So she just opened her eyes. She's laying down. But yeah, so that's where we're at right now. We are in the process. We've got about 3.5 weeks till we get all this done and get all packed up and head on to our new adventure.
Yep. Got a lot of boxes to pack between now and then.
Yeah.
A lot of rugs to fold up. A lot of things to get off the wall.
A lot of things to do. But it's all good. We have a good starting place. So
yep.
We'll be good. So I feel like the next couple weeks, this question is going to be potentially hard to answer. But how are you planning on unwinding this week?
I feel like sometimes unwinding is a relaxing thing. Like I'm going to force myself to relax or I'm going to force myself to work out. I think this week, the thing that will help me unwind the most is being on when I'm on and being off when I'm off.
That's good.
Like making a list when I get up in the morning, I need to do that.
Yeah.
So that when I'm working on work, I'm fully focused on work. When I am off work and I'm, in my workout routine and things like that, I am fully there instead of, just kind of being like half in one place and getting distracted here and whatnot. Yeah. Sometimes when you just focus, a lot of the times it can help you unwind because you're not, scatterbrained.
Yeah, ping-ponging around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Focus for me is a big deal.
That's great. It's funny you said that because I was like, well, I asked you first because I was like, oh, it gives me time to think. And then right when you started talking, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to say making a plan. So on the similar vein, I think now that...
Now focusing for me is different than making a plan.
True, but
I don't plan too far ahead.
Similar,
but, yeah.
You know what I mean, tactic. Because I was like, man, like I keep saying like, oh, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to read a book, which are all still true. I'm going to do those things, but I'm trying to think of like different ways so I'm not just saying the same thing every week.
Yeah.
But... for me, I think now that we actually have like some dates in line, pending all the inspections and appraisals and everything this week go well. Fingers crossed for that. But having a plan for the organization of our move, I want to make sure, we have things organized well, packed well, to make it as smooth and easy as possible because we do have like 3.5, 4 weeks to get that ready. I don't want to wait till the last minute and then be, scattered and just be like so annoyed by it that we're just throwing crap in boxes.
Yeah.
The littler you do little by little makes it a little bit less overwhelming if you're just doing it in a few days. So it's going to be overwhelming regardless, but I'm going to try to ease that by having a little bit more of a plan.
Yeah, that's cool.
Getting really
I was
organized.
thinking about like we know the dimensions of the truck that we would, and so I was like, we could go ahead and measure a bunch of this stuff and like model it into there and already
that would
know
be aggressive.
where the things. It would be aggressive, but it would also be like way less stressful. So
potentially, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys up to date. Also coming up on the podcast.
Yes, we didn't talk about this
last week. We did the Battle of the Vacays, and I started out really strong. I'll say that, right? You guys really made me proud on the Instagram stories, and then about 3/4 of the way through the day, you really did me dirty, and everybody just started voting for your stuff. So
far, I am.
You are in the lead.
winner.
You are in the lead for sure.
So I don't think we did a really good job in the last podcast saying that we were going to, this was not going to be the only thing that we did on that end. We're going to break down each of our days and what we would do in the specific parks and have y'all vote on those as well. So same thing on my Instagram. We'll do the voting there and then we'll pick an actual winner.
Yes.
Based on all of that.
So we'll probably dedicate an entire episode of the podcast to each one of probably the parks, even though I'm going to visit Epcot twice in mine, but I can kind of run you through that kind of under the scope of like one single park.
Exactly.
So we'll probably have a couple episodes in a row coming out on that one. And then we'll just kind of, as we're, in the moving process and things get updated, we'll just drop that in there as we can. So that's
flexible here. We're flexible because it's going to be wild.
Yep. That's the plan for now. So anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. If you're doing something fun that you're unwinding,
let us know.
Yeah, hit Alex up on the Instagram DMs or comment something down on YouTube if you're watching it online.
Yeah.
Leave a nice review. Leave a review. Share it with somebody. We love that. It really does help us out.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you have a great week. We're going to wrap this sucker up. I'm Chris.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Unwinding Podcast.
Bye, y'all.